Hello, everyone. Just come for you while people start to join. How are we feeling? Good, ready?
We're excited.
Good. Looking forward to it. Well, people are starting to join, so that's great. That's what we want. And I'll fade this music out. Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. Thank you for joining. As the title says, we're going to be discussing all sorts of things about harnessing AI in support beyond bots. When a lot of people hear AI, they tend to think bots, especially in customer support, but we're going to be talking about all sorts of things that you can do within your own customer support to help sort of supercharge your insights, whether or not you harness at all currently. So I'm Bryony Mulcairn. I'm the community manager here at Sentisum. If you don't know Sentisum, we are a platform that turns customer support into the central information hub for your business by automatically analysing, tagging and reporting on every customer support conversation that you have in real time using AI. So this is a topic that we like. If you want to know more about Sentisum, I'm going to pop a little message in the chat just now. And if you do want to know more, just send me an emoji reaction to that message and I will reach out to you after this webinar. So the fantastic panelists that I have here today are both joining me from MakesYouLocal. And if you haven't heard of MakesYouLocal, they are specialists in e-commerce, internationalization and online growth, offering localized customer support solutions. Tobias and Laura are bringing experience from helping over 100 e-commerce companies. So to be sure to seize this opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A box, which we will address at the end. So I'll do a little bit of an introduction on the platform that we're using here today. This is Session by Hopin. It's a lovely platform. I really enjoy it. I use it for my podcasts. If you check that out on the Sentisum website. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see both a chat box and a Q&A box. The chat box can be used for just general chit-chat, comments, sharing your favourite cookie recipes, whatever you like. And the Q&A box is located just next to that, which is where you can share questions for the panel. You can upvote other people's questions, and you can also mark them as resolved if they just end up being organically resolved throughout the webinar. Just keeps everything tidy and in one place. So if everyone could just put something in the chat, let me know, what is your favorite kind of cookie? Just to show me that the chat box is working for all of you. I'm going to go super boring, and I like raisin sugar cookies because they don't contain dairy and I'm lactose intolerant. Subway cookies. Yeah, love those. Are Subway better than Dominos though? That's the question.
I don't know. Chip bread.
Yes, short answer.
Good
Nice.
Classic chocolate. It's always the best one.
Sure.
Are you a dunker, like in tea?
No, I don't think that's such a big a thing here in Denmark, actually.
No, you're not dunkers over there.
At least not in tea. Could be in milk, but that's maybe more American. Even.
Yeah, or coffee, I think, actually. I think that would be more like my chocolate cookie and a cup of coffee than a cup of tea.
Oh, okay. Well, to each their own.
I don't know if it's just for me, but the Q&A box is not appearing right now.
Oh, it's gone off. Let me turn it back on. Thank you, Tobias. I'm glad someone is on the ball. There we go. The Q&A box should be up now. I hope everyone can see that. To let me know if you can see that, there are some emojis at the bottom of the screen, which is the next thing I was going to introduce everyone to. If you can see the Q&A box, please give me a little emoji reaction. Excellent. Feel free to spam those emojis throughout the webinar if you are engaging in what you're seeing, if you're liking it, if you're not liking it, and just let us know that you're there. We love to see a little emoji. So that's my introduction bit done. It's time to introduce you to the people who you actually came here to listen to, Laura and Tobias. Hello, thank you so much for joining me. I can't wait to chat to you both.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks.
So Laura, would you mind going first and giving me a little introduction on yourself, what you do, and on MakesYouLocal?
Yeah, of course. Well, you did that a little bit in the beginning, but short said, yes, my name is Laura. In terms of MakesYouLocal, we're a cross-border e-commerce company, a Danish-based company who's been existing for 13 years. So we're teenagers now, which we're really excited about. So we help web shops basically succeed across all of Europe. And that we do on many different platforms. And it could be everything from localizing your web shop in translations. But what we're primarily talking about today is supporting a lot of our clients' customer support. So simply answering the phones, doing the chats, answering the emails. And we do this in 4 offices. So we have an office here in Copenhagen where I'm sitting today. And then we have an office in Berlin, in Vilnius down in Lithuania, and in Brno in the Czech Republic as well. And for me, my name is Laura, and I work as an e-commerce expansion specialist and an account manager as well here at MakesYouLocal. And I've been working with e-commerce for the past 5 years. Started off 5 years ago doing customer support myself. So a lot of the things we will be discussing today, I'm a bit jealous I didn't have that back then. So yeah, I will probably focus the most about my account management job today, but hope you have e-commerce questions as well, but please ask them, then I can test my skills.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Laura. Tobias, your turn. Could you please give me an introduction on yourself? And could you, just to set up for this episode, tell us what it is that you actually use AI for at the moment at MakesYouLocal?
For sure. Yeah. So my name is Tobias. I'm currently an automation manager here at MakesYouLocal, but I also have roots in our customer service team. So I've been on that side of the fence as well. I work with automation in very much in customer service, how both internally we can automate things to become more efficient and better at what we do, but also on how our clients can take advantage of these new technologies that pop up and how that can be beneficial to their businesses. And in terms of AI, this year we have been very focused on incorporating AI in our customer service, product, and especially in terms of automating tagging. So we're not having to have people do so manually, but making that fully automatic. And with that automated tagging, we are looking into deep insights into the conversations, trends over time. If there is a specific spike in very specific kinds of conversations at one point, and also for routing conversations to the right people at the right time.
Yeah, we really love insights.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I think we all do, hence that you guys are on the panel with us. And as you've been agents before, and I have as well, I don't know if this is just an agent thing, but manual tagging, I am just not here for it. No. I mean, when people do it well, ace, absolutely. I've had some fantastic guests on the podcast who have it set up really, really well, but I just remember it as being so awful. So if this was available back then, I would have had a great time. So Tobias, your teams manage support for about 120 e-commerce businesses with 270 web shops between them. Can you tell us some of the common challenges you've seen across this sort of spectrum?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, of course, companies will want to go abroad. They want to grow their business, and it's just not as easy always as just translating the website and then copy pasting everything else. It's really about sort of navigating both navigating language, but also navigating the different markets that you want to enter. Like, you often use the analogy of how can a German company sort of connect with a Swedish consumer, and that's stuff to do with payment solutions that the Swedish consumer would expect you to go from PayPal, for instance, to Klarna instead, and they would expect you to use some of the local parcel distributors rather than maybe continue with DHL. So it's really about managing or kind of meeting your desired customers' expectations in the new market that you're entering, because they have expectations and things that they're used to. And if you're sitting in Germany and want to sell in Sweden, which is, very understandable, then it can be difficult to meet these expectations because you might not be aware of them.
And I think that's the most common challenge we meet. It's you're very stuck in your own roots. Mm-hmm. You've had a successful web shop for many years in Denmark, and you've been existing forever. You know what works here, but that doesn't mean you know what works for the Swedish customer. And that's where we come into the picture, and of course assist in supporting and telling you things aren't as they seem. You have to really seem local. It's in the name, MakesYouLocal, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes absolute sense. There are so many small nuances that are present across like different countries and things that you just might not think about. So that could make a big difference to someone if they're used to ordering through PayPal, or if they're used to having DHL as their courier, and then you come in and use someone that nobody really likes, then it might impact the.
But it's also sort of the way of delivery, for instance, like is it a parcel shop or is it home delivery? The preferences, they just vary a lot in different places. Kind of the norm varies.
Yeah, you can also take an example. We talked about cookies in the beginning here. So imagine you doing a campaign about what you should dip your cookie in, and then you have an English company and you're branding to Denmark, then you wouldn't say, remember, you can dip your cookie in tea. So it's localizing, and you have to remember it on more aspects. And that's where we support a lot of our clients in facing these difficulties to make sure they don't send out wrongful information on the wrong days and so forth in the different markets we support.
Yeah. I love that example, because me as a Brit, I'm like, do you guys dunk in your tea? And you're like, what are you talking about? Yeah, that makes sense. So I'd love to know from the audience whether you relate to any of those challenges that Tobias just mentioned in your support. If you do deliver across multiple different places, or if you support multiple different languages or areas, do you have those challenges where that you come across where people have different expectations? And I think even in terms of the service people provide, that varies a lot as well, doesn't it? Because some people, customer service is very friendly and formal, and other places they might be like, what, you're sending me an emoji? What are you doing that for? How rude.
Exactly. Yeah. Great example as well. How to communicate. It's it's difficult if you don't know, if you're not used to it.
Definitely.
Yeah, we're talking a lot with our clients about it as well. When you're, for example, selling to Germany, it's also the matter of maybe don't overdo it with emojis, as maybe the three of us would do together.
Yeah, we've got the reactions on this platform, and I don't know where everyone's joining from. Everyone's joining from all around the world, but we'll see when I look back at the engagements what locale sort of used them the most. We'll find out. So, Laura, we mentioned the challenges a little bit, but what are some of the opportunities that exist in customer service to help overall business success?
Yeah. Customer service is such a broad parameter, and I think that's why we're all also here today, that we can fill out a whole hour talking about just AI in it. One of the things I always see customer service as is I don't just see it as someone answering the phone on a daily basis. I see it in a way sort of as a marketing platform as well. Because if you have a good experience with customer service, the likelihood of you coming back is way bigger. Tobias and I, when we did customer service back in the day, we always heard our operations manager back then say that if a customer had a bad experience purchasing something online, that's one thing. But if you then reach out to customer service and you get it solved, the likelihood of you then purchasing there again is bigger. And that's always really interesting, in that the processes and the way you reach out to your customers, the communication in it, but also making as much information available for them as possible, is everything is customer service. It's not just your agent answering the phone. So for us, we've seen it as many different layers, not just answering the phone on a daily basis. And one of the things we support a lot, and we really see the importance in, is doing it local languages. And you can take me as an example. I'm already stumbling over the words a little bit. So for example, when I have to talk to you guys, and I can of course do that in English, that's not a problem for me, but I would know that I would be more confident doing that in Danish. And that's the same way we think about all of your clients, for you guys who are sitting and listening to us today. So even though your customer speaks the language in English and could potentially call, there is a difference in what they're comfortable with, and that's what you have to give out there. That's what your customer service have to provide, what your customers want, not what's easiest for you, in a sense.
And also, I mean, customer service is sort of the best form of two-way communication and connection that you'll be able to have with the people that are buying your products and helping you be in business. So it's not just problem solving. It's not just problem solving. It's more about, connecting with your customers, and it's a great way of doing that. And knowing,
it speaks a lot to the insights part, which is what this is all about. It's how we use AI as well. We use it to collect the insights from the customers, and their insights is key. on all parameters, because their feedback is the one you need, because we all know that if we go to our own web pages, we know exactly how to navigate them. But that doesn't mean your customers do. So that's the feedback you need from out there for someone who's not familiar with it in order to optimize your local site. Figuring out where to place the right buttons, how to use the filtrations. That could vary between markets.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are so many opportunities in customer service and customer support, which is what makes it so sad when that's not fully appreciated within an organization. You guys know as previous agents, and I hope we've got some previous agents in the audience today, that no two conversations are generally the same with a customer when they're calling in or emailing. I've had customers call up who have been screaming at me for something that isn't even, no one's even done anything bad to them. They just don't like a policy and they're so angry. And I've had people crying down the phone because something's made them feel so good. And it's so different. How do you tag that conversation? How do you report back as an agent when you're having 100 of these calls a day to say what's resonating or not? And that's where AI is so important. And these people who do have those good experience, they will come back. They will tell their friends. They'll refer other people to your business. So customer service is really so key. And those insights you get for those conversations can unlock strategy on strategy in every department. Even when I moved into marketing, I was working closely with support.
Yeah, exactly. And it could just be a simple thing as using the right color for a button can change a lot as well. To make it more simple. So some of these small things. I'm actually a bit curious now we're talking about it. Does everyone who's listening here, do you tag your own conversations? I'm just curious because we of course have done it forever. We've seen the development in it, but it would be really interesting to hear if the audience are tagging theirs on a daily basis right now as well.
Yeah, we got a few thumbs up there, so we must have a couple. But yeah, great question. And I'd also love to know, is that working for you? There's lots of resources around on optimizing your tagging support structure. If you're not in a position where you feel like you're able to invest in a tool or you don't want to invest in a tool right now, I can, with the recording, share some data I can share some articles and resources to say how you can still do the things we're going to talk about in this webinar by optimizing your tagging. So Tobias, MakesYouLocal have recently partnered with Sentisum to enable the clients of all different sizes to harness AI in support. What was the journey of discovery like in finding and implementing Sentisum and AI generally in your customer service conversations for your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could sort of say that it started in a very kind of self-serving manner. It was like, can we maybe just take our now old tagging system that was done manually and then pass that task on to AI, and then we can maybe shave 3 seconds off each conversation, and then we'll be more efficient, and then we can do more conversation and, I mean, make more money. Like, that's kind of how it started. Can we just transfer this task over to something else and then be quicker at what we do? But I mean, the way that our tagging system was working before, it just kind of when discovering and learning more about Sentisum, but also just AI in general, it became clear that that would be sort of an underutilization of what artificial intelligence can do.
Yeah.
For instance, one of the tags that we had before was just called product. Very, very broad. There can be a lot of different questions about product. And certainly AI would be able to make that tag and do so in a pretty accurate way. But it would almost just as easily be able to pick out if the question is specifically about the sizing of a specific product or whether it's in stock or not. So that was kind of the first step, like, okay, but if we want to do something like this, it would essentially be a waste to only do what we did before, but just use AI. And then that even brought forward, maybe we can we use this as well in a way to give more access to our clients, be more transparent, and sort of use this data as a medium for collaboration almost. Can we use it together? Can we sit down with the client, look at the same data and see, oh, you've had an increase in, well, it could be product size inquiries over the next few months, and then figure out together how can we help bring this down, because those kinds of conversations is some sort of disturbance in the customer journeys and something that might be holding a sale back. Yeah, and then I mean, where we are now is sort of a situation where now it's going live with all of our clients, and it's about navigating the, can say, expectations. And now we're going from something that was one thing and something to something else, and kind of managing that transition.
Yeah. And it's of course also something our clients have been requesting. The more information, we haven't talked that much about it, but the way we were tagging before, Tobias, I hope you agree with me, but it was very general. It was very overall topics, and then a few smaller topics within an overall one, meaning that you didn't get that much deep dive into the conversations you had. You could quickly sit with exactly a product or something called complaint, but a complaint is many things. And Brian, you mentioned one in the beginning that you had a customer yelling at you. Is that also a complaint? So we were really also trying to listen to our clients' requests on what are they lacking and how can we harness that to provide that information to them as well, not only for internal use as well, of course.
And I think it's important I know it's important for our clients. I can imagine it is if you were doing your own customer service in-house, if you were to outsource it to another company, it's kind of nerve-wracking to hand that over. And if the granularity in the reporting and the insights that you get from the company that you're outsourcing to is, well, not very granular, then that can be kind of a worry. You feel like you're losing some sort of a connection. So that's something that with AI, because it's that much more detailed, then you can sort of keep that connection, even though you might not be sitting and answering the phones yourself.
Yeah, that's the word there, granular, because you can, when you've got the automated tagging, you can drill down and look at, okay, there's issues with the product, but what about the product? Is it actual things arriving damaged? Is it the website interface that's not doing very well? And you can follow almost like a little filtration down to see what is at the root. You can do real root cause analysis and then fix it at the root. And then you won't have that ticket again, hopefully. So that's a really good benefit there. And as I said, if you can't do this with a tool, then there are ways that you can look at, okay, structuring your tagging in such a way that there is almost, I've heard people doing one-for-one tags using macros on Zendesk. Like there's lots of ways you can link these together to actually look, what can we fix? And have meetings with different department heads to solve issues at the root, tie that to business revenue, tie that to man hours that are being used up answering these queries, and hopefully happier customers, more revenue, all of the good stuff.
And I think just overall, just of course, track them. If, as Brian is saying, maybe you don't use a tool, but just the fact that you can see an overall topic is still a big help for you. So if you're able to see that 80% of all your inquiries are potentially coming from delivery, then you also know which aspect you have to focus on, figuring out where is the source of the problem. So we highly recommend it. And our journey has been extreme as well, a bit from 5 years ago when Tobias and I did customer service to now. It's been quite a journey. We used to have a tag called order related questions, which is almost everything. So that's of course also, but that worked. So we knew what that was about. And so as long as you do as well, then of course make use of what makes sense for you too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And we'll go into some specific examples as well. I can see that we have got a really good question in the Q&A, which I will come to in a moment, because I think we're going to be touching on triage shortly, which kind of relates to this issue or could relate to this issue. But Laura, how is it specifically that data is helping your clients who are looking to expand into new markets?
It is helping our clients who want to expand, but it's also helping our clients who are currently in other markets. So it's not only, you shouldn't only use tagging if you're thinking, now I want to go to Sweden. You should use it as a tool all the time, if you ask me. And I think we all do. All of us love data. And what is really nice with the way of tagging conversation is that data now supports our hunches. So now it's not a sense and a feeling of, okay, I think that the majority of our questions are about this specific shoe. That's customer service who says that, but now you actually actual data insights to back up your theory and then optimize based on that. So short set, you can figure out all of the replies. Why are the customers reaching out? Why did they have to reach out? And where could this information be available? So it's looking at the entire journey and using a lot of these data helps improving the entire purchasing experience in overall. what we see, for example, for some of our clients who are expanding into new markets and having this on from the beginning, I've been lucky to be an account manager for one of the ones we started this with. They used it a lot in the beginning, focusing on that market to also make sure to fix the challenges fast. So in order that you can check on frequently 24/7 and you can solve the problems before you've been live for a long period of time, but you have the information by hand 24/7 basically. So you can go in, you can deep dive, you can see that this specific distributor, as the example Tobias mentioned in the beginning, is not working. Then you know, okay, now I have to have logistics looking into another one. So fix the things as soon as possible and use your customers' feedback, because they are the ones who knows what they want. It's not us who knows it, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just going to flag up this question that's just come in. What kind of different issues can you see across markets? Do they differ a lot? So I know you both had some examples when we discussed this previously on what exactly you have encountered when clients are expanding markets. Could you give us some examples?
Yeah, I think one of the mistakes that many people does is to compare it to what you do in your home market. And that's something I really think you should be careful to, because you can just take the Nordics as an example. There's a lot of Danish people who don't understand or speak Swedish or Norwegian, for example. And there's a lot of differences in the purchasing experience, but also in the size of the country. I think one of our Swedish specialists used the example of there's the same distance between the bottom of Sweden to the top as there is from Copenhagen to Bologna in Italy. So it's really considering some of these different versions of, you have to focus more on logistics and figuring out the waiting time in Sweden. Maybe you have 1 to 2 days in Denmark because that makes sense, but that's just not the case because the country is so big. So it's some of these small aspects. It's redoing your USP so they make sense for the other consumers. And that's one of the key problems sometimes, is that you can't just copy paste and just quickly translate your website. You have to localize it in order to be successful.
I was gonna agree completely. The one about the size of the country, that again, managing expectations. I think generally we'll see similar kind of expectations. Like most of the conversations that we handle at MakesYouLocal in some way or capacity has something to do with the delivery of the parcels. That's one of the very big ones, because, well, if you kind of exceed the expectation that has been given to the customer, then people are going to start to worry. So, I mean, generally, the specific kinds of issues don't necessarily change that much across the countries, as long as you're managing the customers in that country's expectations.
Yeah, and it could be you had the same problem, but it's not the same solution.
Yeah.
Payment methods, for example. So if you have payment problems in Denmark and in Sweden, it's probably because you're missing a certain payment provider. It's not because you have to add the same one to the website. And that's really important to remember overall, that you have to adapt to your customers. Adapt. That's really crucial.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something you were able to sort of get to the root of for your clients from your own experience, obviously, but also through looking at that automated tagging and seeing what is the volume of complaints that are about delivery and delivery times and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, one of the clients we've tested this with, they sell across the Nordics. And one of the key problems we had there, or issues, as you mentioned in the question here, has been, why are Danish people always asking questions about delivery, but the Swedish and Finnish people aren't? And this is something we could then compare by using the AR. So we can compare the different markets, we could compare the questions and then the CSAT rating on the conversation to figure out, okay, it's actually because the Danish consumers just expect it faster than the Swedes do, because it's a bigger country, so they're used to it. So then you can finally see some of these crucial aspects of it and saying, okay, it's not because the Swedes are getting it faster necessarily. It's also because the Danes just have another culture and they expect it faster because we have a smaller country, so we're used to it.
We're privileged having a very small country.
Yeah, Danes.
I was thinking that as you were saying that, because I can at the minute sometimes order something on Amazon in the morning and get it delivered in the afternoon.
Exactly.
Tiny country. And
exactly, because you have locals you have to compete with as well. And that's just the case. And I think, of course, you will have niche brands that are not as many competitors, but overall, you will always have someone where your customer will go somewhere else if everything doesn't live up to their expectations.
Yeah, absolutely. Shane's just said that as an American, guilty, this is absolutely fascinating that the challenge of adapting to norms is also such a challenge for those non-US. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, I can imagine, because I mean, what, Europe is the size of the United States, like, yeah, and we're so close, and we can practically walk to Sweden from here, but there are just still things that are just inherently different.
Yeah. We when we were hosting our conference here a few months ago, we researched a bit also into like payment methods. And I remember what our Swedish specialist figured out was that, for example, I think it was around 30-something% of all Swedes use invoice payment, and it was 4% in Denmark. And that's just a small thing where if you don't have invoice payment with a specific payment provider, Klarna, then you have a problem in Sweden. You would not have a problem in Denmark. So that's just a small thing, but that's really, really important.
Yeah.
In order to compete with the local competitors as well.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that you might not automatically consider, really. I think the obvious one for a lot of people would be the language barrier. And I think that's something we're going to be mentioning as well. But there's so many other things that you wouldn't even think of. And when I was at a recent event in Copenhagen, I met someone there who was Swedish, and we were sat at the bar with everyone, and he said, well, for me, for a Swedish man, we're sat very close together. What do you mean? Like, it's a busy bar. And he'd like show me this picture of how Swedish people wait for the bus, and they're all like 10 feet apart in a queue. And he's like, yeah, we like distance because we're a big country. Like, who knew? If I was going to go and speak to a customer in Sweden, then I'd probably have to make sure I didn't get too close. Cool. Anyway,
I think Danes are the same there, actually.
Wow. Good to know.
I mean, it was the best time ever for us.
So, moving on from that, Tobias, could you please give us some examples of how using AI has enabled you to get to the root cause of some issues from your clients, or even just to directly solve a problem as it comes up?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think that whole root cause aspect is something that's what AI does really well, especially because of that granularity that we spoke about, that it in a very detailed way can pick up specific issues, specific pain points along the customer's journey. And then, I mean, you can boil it down to almost use that as a sort of a to-do list in a way. Like, we can see that customers are having this problem, and if 50 customers have had this problem, maybe even 100 or 200 have had it, but they just didn't contact us. Maybe they just abandoned their cart and left. And one of the things that for one of our clients is they sell products that have a lot of spare parts that sometimes needed because, well, you have a very old product and you need to replace something specifically. And with AI, you can very, very easily see what kind of conversations goes into this spare part category. And you can figure out, okay, but and you figure out what kind of spare parts is it actually that people are looking for, and you can start to maybe even just put them on your site and to have people be able to purchase them directly instead of having to contact you. So I think that's one of the good examples. But it's also about when you're in the Nordics, all over Europe, there are plenty of distributors to choose from, but you can actually sort of investigate what's going on with the different ones. Are some people, do we generally see maybe a higher CSAT score if it's delivered, like with conversations where the order has been shipped with the DHL than with someone else. So you kind of get to those kinds of things and actually make, in another way, very informed decisions.
And it's really true. I remember one of the tags we had before was just called delivery, which is very broad. A lot of the questions that Tobias mentioned in terms of distributors, but also I remember a lot of our clients have requested splitting this up into more pieces, because delivery can be so many things. It can be Tobias reaching out to customer service saying, where's my order? It can be a tracking request. It can be it's damaged during transport, or it can be it's lost. And now having AI gives us the option of having more tags than just an overall, but also deep dive into the delivery aspect overall to find the actual problem. What is the primary one? Is it split evenly, or is it a specific distributor that's the problem for this specific client, for example? which we were not able to do so before.
Yeah, and I also think just the whole way of, where before, when tagging was done manually, and then the people in our teams would make recommendations to our clients, and that was very much based on like anecdotal evidence. So you would see that maybe 50% of the conversations were about product, and then you would say, oh yeah, but I remember someone once asked about this, so there were probably some more. I mean, because you can't, you as one agent, you haven't listened to every single conversation, and you won't necessarily be able to get the whole group together and then kind of outline what it was everything specifically about, or read through every email. But now it's actually more, you have very specific tags. So the recommendations that we give to our clients are much more evidence-based, and that is both a benefit for us, because we can be better at helping our clients, but it's also a benefit for our clients because they can actually see this is what the kind of issue is that we're seeing, and here are all the conversations that back this up.
Yeah, we used to have a tag called not order related.
Hmm.
What exactly? Not order related. That's a lot of things. It's everything that's not about an order.
Yeah.
For some of our clients, that it was almost none of the conversations coming in. But we have a specific client, for example, who has a customer club where that's not order related inquiries, meaning that this was just one general tag with 700 conversations, but we had no data in providing to them and saying, how was this actually split up? And harnessing the AI and the tool Centisum now, and just in general tagging in itself and splitting it up into pieces, it's given us actually a chance of saying in which part is the customer club problems occurring. Is it because they can't log in, or is it because they don't get their emails, or what is the actual cause and what's the root of the problems, which has been eye-opening in a way that it's just not simplifying it too much have actually been a good thing. And I remember as the more simplified, the easier it was to understand.
Yeah, there's pros and cons, isn't there, to having your broad level tags, because then you end up getting really, really deep in the weeds sometimes if you've got too many. But if you have too few, you've no idea what anyone's actually talking about.
It's also one of the good things with AI, because even though you will have all these different, maybe very, very specific and small tags, you can still group those together in larger bunches if you want. Okay, well, this group of 10 or 15 categories of conversations, they actually all belong to some form of product category or delivery category.
Yeah, and especially for us now, you told in the beginning, Bryony, that we work with more different e-commerce suppliers, meaning that all of these different suppliers will have different types of problems. We won't see the same on all of them. We will, of course, see some similarities, but you won't see the same on everyone. And having AI means that we are able to provide them more information in the topics that means the most to them, and not necessarily the topics that's more general. And that has been a nice add-on for us as well, to deep dive and gain insights to ourselves that is actually needed. You need to localize your tagging as well as you need to localize your website.
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely. So just to give the audience a little context, the AI that you guys have access to at the moment for your clients is the automated tagging. You have the translation services in there, and you also have use of the real-time reporting, customized dashboards, and triage, which we haven't mentioned, but I think we can speak about that a bit more shortly. Of all of those elements that you have that you're using the AI for, would you say that automated tagging is the one we've mentioned most? Would you say that that's been the most sort of influential one for you and your clients?
But I think it's also based, I think it's yes, but it's because of what it brings and allows for. You mentioned routing yourself. I'm a firm believer in that not all customer service conversations are created equal. Like, it's important to, you should prioritize the ones that are urgent in a way that you can drive more sales from them. You can help the customer in a way that makes them, oh yeah, that was the product I was looking for, then I will purchase, and not have them wait in an email queue for long. You also want to, if your customer has a very big problem after purchase or some really urgent situations, you want to be able to say, okay, that's important. We want to move that to the top of the queue. And because AI doesn't wait for a person to look at the conversation before giving it a tag or add it to a category or whatnot, you're actually able to say, just when it comes in, it's scanned and it's analyzed, and then you apply a tag, and then in whatever system you're using to do customer service, you will be able to say, okay, but then this goes to the top of the queue or to a separate queue that has a higher priority, or however it works in your system.
And it's a lot of also the connection between the services, I think, because the automated tagging has been a big part of it. But you mentioned as well, Brian, with the translation. So one of the things that we've seen a lot of value in, and now we work with clients who are expanding to more markets, not only their home market, meaning language barrier. Now we're mentioning it again, I'm sorry. But for me, reading a French conversation, that's impossible. Like, I don't understand a word of what it says, neither would German, for example. So the fact that we can actually provide our clients access to, they can go in and just see the communication in English, and being able to actually understand what their other customers are requesting, even though they provide the local service. That's been a huge benefit also for Tobias and I, when research into it, to actually be able to understand what's going on other markets than just Danish and English.
Yes, absolutely. And as we've mentioned, sort of the routing side of it, I'm going to just highlight this question. Obviously, we've said AI beyond bots, and now we have got a question about bots. This is absolutely perfect because it takes us into some of the nuances that happen in different conversations, and what bots can handle and what they maybe can't handle, or what is more appropriate for a human. So I've seen a much bigger demand, or I've seen more conversations happening about automated routing and triage lately. It's something that we've offered for quite a while at Centisum, but I've definitely seen more appetite for it in sort of recent months. Because one thing that then you can do is you can route conversations that are maybe appropriate to a chatbot, ones that are really simple to your new starters to help them with learning and getting upskilled in as an agent, and the more complicated ones directly to this person, or ones that are regarding legal or fraud to this specific skill set of agent. So in today's world, do you think people prefer self-service and AI chatbots over talking to real people, or is that too subjective? And is it different for each business category? Would any of you like to?
Yeah. I mean, I think people like to have the option to do either. I think just the ability to choose, and maybe also to kind of put the faith in the customer as well, in a way, to say that if I'm looking for a tracking number, maybe I see that there is an option in the chatbot, maybe like a shortcut that says track my order, then I'll have faith in actually being able to go and figure out where my order is. But also, being confident the customer would see, okay, but I feel like this is very, very complicated. I don't really know how to explain it even myself. Then give them the option to just to chat with an agent or send an email. I don't think it's wise to force.
No, I think it's always also a little bit a generational question. I talked with my mom on the phone actually yesterday that we were doing this webinar, and she was like, AI, what's that? And so I think Tobias has a point in, you don't gain anything from limiting the options towards your customers, because even though what you're selling, even though your target group might be a bit of an older generation that maybe we are here, then their children might purchase things for them, or their husband or their aunt or their niece or something like that. So be careful to not limit yourself. Have the options there, but there will be some generational questions. And therefore, I think if people in general prefer self-service over AI, no, I don't think that. I think you want the choice to decide yourself. We talked a lot about it when we launched the chatbots back in the day, a long time ago as well now. What do people want? Do they want to find answers themselves, or do they want to reach out? And we're seeing a bigger trend in finding the answer yourself doesn't necessarily mean you have to talk to AI. It can also be using your website and finding the information and having the information available there.
Yes, absolutely. I think this is something that HubSpot do really well, or I've found it really handy, because sometimes I just feel like I'm being a bit stupid and blind and I can't find the button that I need. And so I can really quickly just write some keywords in and it will come up with some prompts to say this is where this might be. Or if it is something that I think actually I need someone to have a look at this, why is this workflow only working half of the time and not the other half? Someone's going to need to test it. I can click the option to deal with a human. And apologies, Rajat, that doesn't say whether it is different per category of business or whether it is better in general, but I think your answer was perfect there, Laura. It is going to be down to the individual. I'll mark that as resolved, but if you're not happy with that or you want to dive a little bit deeper, please feel free to pop another question in the Q&A. So Laura, I just wanted to ask you, what was the response like from your clients when you started introducing the use of AI on their customer support data?
I've been looking forward to this actually, because I remember these conversations really clearly, because we've had a client where we've been talking about tagging in general for a really long time. And I remember when I told him that we were getting this, he just looked at me and he said, finally. And I was just so pleased to hear that someone else also saw the value as we see. And also just having this webinar is amazing, because then we see that people actually see the use of having this access as valuable, or I hope. There is, of course, a layer of feedback. There always will be. And I really highlight that you should always give feedback for everything. But what's been fun here is that the feedback is not necessarily of using the AI, harnessing that for tagging. Mm-hmm. That's more of the specific use cases and how do you want to work with it the best way. But I've only heard good things. It's of course a matter of understanding the best way of using it. But yeah, I'm really pleased with the reception we've got.
Yeah, but also I think it's also about, oh, now my lights went out here. Well, it's also about, in some way, like managing the expectations and sort of explaining what it is. Because it's easier to explain if a human makes a mistake when they make a tag, because maybe they just misclicked or something. It can be more difficult to explain, why was this tag maybe not applied to this conversation, or why was it applied to this conversation instead? So, Laura mentioned feedback. It's also about feedback in that regard, because with AI, the more data that you have and the more you can correct and tweak it, the better it will get. So it's also about, for our sake, harnessing that from our clients throughout the sort of journey that we're on.
Yeah, and would anyone say no to more data insights?
If they're actionable, then yes. Then no.
Yes, exactly. As long as you don't have to put them in a pivot table or something. Yeah, and you just made a really good point there, Tobias. The beauty of AI is that it's intelligent. It's got intelligence right there in the name. It's always learning. And you might have seen there's been such a huge buzz. If you frequent LinkedIn, you'd have seen all the ChatGPT hashtags that have been popping up all over the place for recent months, because AI has just got even more cleverer. So it's able to do even more. It's able to understand even more. And it's only going to keep improving and keep getting better. And the beauty of it is that it can learn how your customers talk. So it's not reliant on keyword tagging like old automated tagging might be. It learns how they speak. How do they refer to things? These two people have described, that their delivery driver kicked their front door. This one said that the delivery driver shouted at their cat. I don't know. Both of them are describing driver behavior rude, not good. And then that will go into another broader tag and another broader tag that you can actually see, okay, we're having a lot of problems with DHL. Sorry, DHL. Why is that? Driver behavior. Oh, what about the driver behavior? Let's go a bit deeper and really drill this down. Oh, he hated cats. Right. Okay. How can we contact DHL and fix this? So it allows you to go super granular, and then your team who organized that and the courier can look at, is it appropriate for us to switch courier? So Tobias, what is next for you in this AI journey at MakesYouLocal?
Yeah, we've been spending a good few months tweaking, testing, making models better, custom solutions for us that work for our kind of use case. I think from now on onwards, it's a lot about working with our clients. So I think I briefly mentioned it earlier, but sort of turning this AI tagging universe sort of that we're building for them into the medium for collaboration with their account manager here at MakesYouLocal, and sort of saying, okay, so based on the last 2 months of data, we see that most of your conversation is about these 3 things maybe. Then let's make a plan for how we can decrease these things, and then look over the next period of time and hopefully see that decrease as kind of the percentage of overall conversations that you're seeing. So I think for us, this is a chance to really kind of connect with our clients and make customized solutions and paths for them to become better web shops or get rid of their whatever issues they might have or experience that we might not have been able to pinpoint as easily before. Yeah,
that's great. I love that, and I can't wait to see the results on actually what has happened as a result of using SentiSum. I think you've started rolling it out since February, is that right? Yeah, so we'll be doing a case study with you, I'm sure, in a couple of months. I have a question here from Shane. I don't know if we've answered this a little, but either way, how do we tackle subcategorization, for example, for Sweden delivery versus UK delivery, etc.?
I mean, I can't speak for other use cases, but this is very much for kind of based on the integration that we're making. So we know that this conversation comes from this email address, which is the Swedish email address that this company have on their Swedish side, and the same for the UK ones. So for us, it's basically just a filter or a matter of slicing and dicing and saying, I want to see UK and I want to see Sweden and I want to see these 6 tags maybe that have something to do with delivery. So in our case, it's not really anything that's not based on AI at least.
No, but that also talks quite a lot into localizing your customer service as well. Because having one general one also makes it tricky for you, because if you look at overall delivery as one big point on one big email address or platform, you have to be able to look into the different markets, because that's where you gain the value of having a localized web shop. So I get the question. It's really important to look at Sweden delivery itself.
Yeah. And speaking from my perspective, the customers who use SentiSum, they like to view their data in all different ways. So we have some that might want to segment their channels based on where are these coming from? What channel am I analyzing here? Is it CSAT? Is it Trustpilot? Is it our live chat? Maybe they want them all mushed together in one place so that they can look at more top line things. Maybe they want both and they want to be able to filter. It's really, really customizable. And then in instances like that, they might have their UK customer support on one filtration and their Swedish on another. There's loads of ways you can do it. I hope that gives you somewhat of a good answer, but if you have any follow-ups, please let me know. So we've just got a couple of minutes left if anyone wants to ask any more questions. I hope that we have given you quite a good overview of some of the use cases here for AI. I don't know, it's quite a hard webinar to put on. It's a hard topic to discuss because, as Laura said, sometimes you mention AI and your mum goes, ugh, what's that? You know, that might be the same with your colleagues or anyone who we've invited to this. It could be a scary subject because it's been talked about so much and in so many confusing, complicated ways. So we've tried to focus on what you can actually do with it, what you can get out of it. And I hope that's been helpful to the audience. But if anyone does have any questions about the techie side of it, or they want to actually see it in action, then please do react to that initial that initial message that I put when you scroll up to the top of the chat, and I'd be happy to reach out to you and actually show you what it looks like.
I think maybe just in the meantime, I think one thing that is so, like one of the things that AI it's really the best at is just the whole categorization and summarization aspect of things. And tagging is really just a translation of that. So I think it's really, I think it's, of course, now we see everything with ChatGPT and the whole conversational aspect, but I still think that categorization and summarization is not essentially, but it's really almost the very best use case for artificial intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Shane.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll be hanging out here for another couple of minutes in case anyone does want to hang back, but otherwise feel free to grab yourself a coffee, and thank you so much for coming and joining us here today. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you for having us, Jenny. It was a pleasure participating.
Yes, it was lovely to have you. You're both great. Thanks so much.
Thank you. You too.
Okay, speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.